Welcome. We are Hackerspace LA. The long name is Hackerspace Los Angeles. We're in San Fernando, California, and today is our first meetup.
It's Van Nuys, actually, not San Fernando.
San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, San Fernando.
San Fernando Valley.
Yeah.
There you go. And today's our first meetup for the group where we're going to have a workshop. A workshop for today will be Arduino, just the basics. We're not going to get into any big, complicated, messy routines here. It's just going to be what can you do with Arduino, what is Arduino for or best suited for, and if you have any questions and any other ideas or questions, we just go ahead and address those. So to start, Arduino is a open source platform, meaning that anybody can use it, anybody can work on it, anybody can do anything you want with it. And the only thing that is asked of you when you do that is that you put whatever you do out there for other people to either use it or learn from it. That's all they ask. It's a big deal. I mean, it's a good deal, I should say so.
That means that anybody can actually produce their own Arduino boards.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. And they can even sell them too. They just don't want you to use their name, but you can make it as long as you add whatever name you want plus for Arduino, then they have no problems with it, or compatible with Arduino. But if you use like Arduino Uno, Arduino 99, whatever, then they'll have problems with that. But yeah, you can use it, you can sell it, you can make money. There's a big company, I don't know if you guys heard of it, MakerBot. That's how they started with an Arduino board. That's how they started their 3D printers, and now they're pretty big. So yes, Arduino, it's an open source platform, and basically where it is, it has two parts. It has a hardware and it has a software side to it. On the hardware part of it, there are several boards, controllers that have different functions. You can do a lot of things with different kinds of Arduinos. There are even some that are so tiny. That's also an Arduino.
Wow.
And there's, I think, a little one even smaller than that.
Chibi.
So you can do a lot of it with it. They're officially called microcontrollers, and they're one of the parts that makes it so powerful is the software or the support behind it. They are based on the C++ and C languages. If you know Python, that's a very good fit for you. And there are many projects that have started that use the Arduino platform. It's inexpensive. Usually there are other companies that make microcontrollers, Atmel, Texas Instrument, and some other companies. We pay about $100 for their boards. Arduinos, if you buy the brand name Arduino, you probably pay about $30, about another $20 for the little one. And if you want to go on the one of the clones, well, not clones, they don't call them clones, but with the other open source boards, you can probably get them around $5 to $8, $10 at the most. If there's a video out there on YouTube, we'll put them on the notes. This guy created its own Arduino, built it from scratch for under $4.
Wow.
So, and you can do whatever you want, pretty much.
That's because most of the technology is actually in the 18 mega chip or whatever that kind of runs it.
Most of it, but you have the clock, the resistors, the capacitors, and all that. Getting all this part, they're cheap, and I think the most expensive part will be the chip, the Atmel chip. Yes. One of the other things that the Arduino does, it receives. It's not a computer. People call it a computer, but it's not really a computer. It's a device that allows for inputs to come in from different types. You can use a keypad to get input into the board. You can use all kinds of sensors. You have a rangefinder. It will take in the data from that rangefinder, and then you can do stuff with it. There's also, light sensors. You have all kinds of sensors that you can use for the Arduino. And it will also, in turn, after you get inputs out, you want to do something with it. There's also a lot of things you can do with it. You can drive motors. You can activate you can activate an actual computer with it. You can activate lights. You can add it to a home sensing system that can pretty much control all of your home utilities through an Arduino. It's a lot of work, but it could be done. So it is a little. It's a little thing. It's a little engine that could basically. If you have enough time and you want to put a lot of effort in it, there's a lot of things you can do with it. There'll be links on the notes that will tell you what the other people are doing with it. Very, very good examples. And you can probably take it from there and see if you like it. The reasons why the Arduino is so popular nowadays is because it's inexpensive, like I mentioned before. And it could be used in different platforms, different computer systems, Linux, Windows, Mac, and I believe Chrome OS. So it is, you can use it pretty much anywhere. The programming environment, like I said, is easy to learn. There's a low curve of learning the software for the Arduino through the IDE program that they have.
Now, you don't have to know C, though, right?
Correct. You don't.
There's a in-between language that Arduino gives you.
Yes.
To code in initially.
They didn't. They have, I guess, stripped the stuff, the crazy stuff I call it. But they have some stuff that is compatible with C-based programming and the Python. You can even use Serial. Well, see, and there are other programs that you can use, visual programs that you can use to program your Arduino, and there's a list of them in here, I think.
When you start a sketch, which I've heard that's what they call.
Yes, they don't call them.
Program,
Yeah.
What's that? What language is that called? That's written in your first sketch.
It's a combination between C and wire. So if I don't know if you're familiar with wire, that's what the old timers used to use to program their robots and things like that. But it is derived from it, the Arduino actual stuff that you use to do your sketches. But if you know Python, if you know C, any of the C languages, you're pretty much ahead of everybody else. It's easy to learn. Most people, they say it takes them less than an hour to get their first sketch out the door. And if you don't want to learn anything from it, if you don't want to learn it, you don't want to get the nitty-gritty, learn every single detail, you can just do copy and paste, because whatever you've done, whatever you think of it, somebody already thought of it and they already wrote a sketch for it. So you can just copy and paste it into your program and just make it work for you. And
that's often the way I learn best.
Yes.
Look at examples of other people and say, how did they talk to this motion detector or this DYI'er sensor or whatever? And oh, okay, I can figure it out from there.
And most of the issues you'll find that way is because you're not using the exact same parts. So you ended up researching what part you're using and which pins you need to be using and how to call up, how to activate it, how to turn it on and off. But yeah, that's how people learn most of the good stuff.
What's the first thing that people do with the Arduino? There's like a little hello world
blinking light.
The blinking light.
Blinking light. That's.
What does that do?
Basically, you're telling Arduino has a built, well, not all of them, but the common one, Arduino Uno, has a built-in LED. Most of them do. And you can either use it with it, just plug it into your computer, and tell it what you want to do. And basically, the first sketch that people use is blinking light. And you're telling the board that there's a LED attached to one of the pins, I believe it's 13. And you're telling it anything on 13, I need you to send a signal every 2 seconds to turn it on and then off for a second and turn it back on for a second. And then that's it, that's a loop. And that's what most people do the first time they do their sketch in Arduino. And it's very, very easy. Like I said, in less than an hour, people get their blinking light on. And took me probably about an hour because I keep getting sidetracked or something. Like, oh, no, you can do that too. Whoa. But yeah, you know, it's very, very accommodating if you don't want to bother with learning or getting to the details and the nitty-gritty of computers and programming. There's a list of resources on the back of the paper that I gave you guys. Also, I forgot to add, you should check the Instructables in Hackaday.io. They have very, very good examples of what you can do with the Arduino. I mean, you'll be amazed at stuff they're making out. Some people ask me what's the difference between the Arduino and the Raspberry. What should they get the Arduino instead of the Raspberry? Raspberry is a computer. It's a teeny tiny computer. It's, for what it is, it's powerful, but it's not gonna be your laptop. It's not gonna be your home computer that you can do a lot of stuff with it. It is nice to use if you learn how to use it. It basically, it's a version of Linux that you're using, and whatever you can do with Linux or whatever you can do with Windows, you pretty much can recreate that on a Pi. And they're used for home automation programs or packages, and also for what do you call it? Entertaining systems.
Media centers.
Yeah, media centers, which you can do with this too, but a little bit more because you need to add some storage and things like that. But the Raspberry Pi, it's basically a little computer. Just plug in the monitor, keyboard, and you're up and running. That's basically what can you do and you cannot do with the Arduino. Like I said, I brought in some examples of some of the boards that they have, some of the stuff that you can use with it.
Why don't you go ahead and show us some of the parts? I'm going to zoom in and kind of what the difference is between them. So we have the Arduino board there on the right.
Yes, this is the Arduino Uno. Uno.
Let's leave them on the table.
Revision 3. That's an Arduino Uno revision 3. And this is a Arduino Pro Mini.
Now what's the difference? When will you use the full-size board and when would you use these tiny boards?
For example, there's the requirements are pretty much power. What you're going to be concerned when you're in your project, how much power you're going to draw if you're using a battery, and how much memory your sketch will need to work properly, and how many input and output pins you need. So if obviously the little Pro Mini has a lot less memory, and you can use it, and it has a lot less pins, and the speed of the processor, it's a lot less. I believe the Pro Mini runs at, depends on the one you get. This is the 5 volt. It runs at 16 megahertz. That's compared to the Uno, which runs, the Uno, it's also 5 to 7.5 volts. 5 volts, runs at 16 megahertz, and it has 14 pins, 14 digital pins, and 6 analog pins. The Pro Mini has 14 digital pins and 6 analog pins. So you can connect to this guy, to this. So if you have a project that requires a lot of sensors and a lot of outputs, the Uno will give you better results. There are devices called shields that give you expand how many pins you can add, and there's also bigger boards that have more pins. I think the biggest board with the most pins is the Arduino DYI'er. It has 54 pins, digital and 12 analog. So if you were to have, most people, especially kids, they want to do robots. So you're gonna have a bunch of little devices. Like for example, this is our servos. You can use them to, work the legs of the robot. There are motors. There are actuators. Actually, I'm using an actuator on a project I did for my house, for the lock of the apartment, because I get tired of, I know, sounds crazy, but when you have to walk the dogs 3 times a day, you don't want to keep pulling the key out. You don't want to keep pulling the key out, open it in, get the dogs in, carrying them. So I just have that, use an actuator, put the card in, pops up, open, push, got back in. And then I just disconnect it when I go to work, because, well, I'm just that paranoid. So you can use it in all kinds of ways. These are light sensors. That little thing. You can use them as a switch. Light turns on or light turns off. They give you one of your. So there are many, many, many more. Show you we gave you the range sensor. There are people that are using it as put it on their cars as a backup when they're backing out alarms. There's a couple of those projects somewhere in there on the inventables. Yeah. There's that's another one. I bought this kit. It has 37 sensors, and this gives you an idea of how, I don't know if you can set it upside down. No. So you have, there's a joystick. You can do games. People do a lot of games with them. Flame or fire, I guess, will be detector. And you have a relay to actually work on your switches at home with the DC power. You have magnetic switches. I don't have it. There's humidity sensors. You were talking about using them for your garden. And like I said, the difference between that and the Raspberry, it's you don't get to tinker like this with the Raspberry. You could, but it's already built into their boards. All you have to do is, if you want, just plug in the monitor, keyboard, mouse, or any pointing device, and you're set. So basically, Arduino works best for people that are trying to figure things out. If you've never done programming, if you've never done electronics, if you've never been involved in the maker or movement, things like that, and you just have an idea that you really want to do something, I think the best choice for you will be Arduino. It's cheap. There's a lot of resources out there for you to use, and it's a lot of people that want to help you. If you go to the boards, Arduino boards, it's a lot of people that help you out to overcome problems that you might have. Well, we're just starting, so we are online. You can follow us at Hackerspace LA and Twitter. And we have a website that right now points to the Twitter account. Also by the same name, Hackerspace LA.org. You can find us there, and hopefully soon we'll have a website going with the forum and everything and start building a community. But if you're interested, just get in contact with us any of those ways, any of those places, and then we'll get back to you. And question, comments, I guess comments, how people do it. Like, no. Nah, don't like. And that's it for now. Let us know how we can make this better. Next week, we're going to have how to recycle components.
Are you
Specifically, yes.
sure?
Specifically, if you're going to be doing Arduino stuff, you want to get a hold of stuff so you can work with it. Well. So we're going to have how to reclaim components from discarded devices like computers, VCRs, TVs, well, not TV, monitors, and we'll have a little presentation here how to do it, or where to get your stuff, what stuff is usable and what stuff is not. And that's it. Stay tuned.